There we go. All right. Welcome, everybody, to this week's KubeVirt community meeting. It is the 13th of August, 2025. I can't think of any major milestone this week. If someone has one, please throw in the chat. Should also open chat. Like I said, we've got a really small agenda, so this might be a very short meeting. But if you do have something that you would like to talk about or just raise or any questions, please feel free to throw them on the agenda, the link for which I'll post into chat. There we go. Do we have anyone who is new this week that would like to introduce themselves, or someone that hasn't introduced themselves before? Fair enough. We'll move on then. So we'll have a look at our schedule check-in. I must have updated only last week's and not the template. You what? That's weird. Okay, here we go. So with version 1.6 out the door about 10 days ago, it should be, I hope, full steam ahead on version 1.7. Let's have a look at some of the key dates. The Kubernetes release is coming up. We have the VEP freeze is the 3rd of September. It's worth calling up because that is, what, 3 weeks away from today. You're welcome to ask for clarification if anyone's unsure of the significance of that. Otherwise, we've got the KubeVirt code freeze on the 29th of October and a GA of the 19th of November. And hopefully it goes smoother than our previous release. Any questions regarding our 1.7 schedule? And the Dobbs keeps flipping out for me. Alrighty. Our upcoming CFPG, I haven't updated this, so there's not a lot of point in looking at it. Apologies for that. I'm hoping that next week I'll be kind of a bit more on top of these kinds of things. We do have 4 talks that will be present at the KubeVirt KubeCon North America. That is in the start of November, I believe, including a maintainer talk, some other sessions. Hoping to hear that our project booth has been accepted. And so if you are thinking of or know that you'll be at KubeCon North America, there will be a KubeVirt presence there. And we'll hopefully have some nice swag giveaway at the project booth for contributors. We also have KubeVirt Summit, which will be coming up in, 2 months' time. So hopefully everyone saw the communications that went out across, I think, all of our available communication methods, that there is a new date for that. That will be October 16th. It's 8 days after the previously announced date. The link there goes to the mailing list thread, which I presume is where most people get their information from. So the program committee is working through those, what do you call them, submissions. This week, we hope to have a schedule announceable for next week. I haven't checked the numbers, but my gut feeling is that we had more submissions this year than in previous years, which is a really good sign. There also, I haven't written this down, but I think it was in the original email, slightly different this year. It'll be a single-day event rather than 2 days. And I think it's 4 hours instead of 5 hours, but I'll need to check on that. That sounds right though. So that each session will be a little bit shorter, so we can kind of cram more in. Any questions about KubeVirt Summit?
Just wanted to say that I appreciate you being able to postpone it. Thank you.
Very welcome. It was, helped by you know, the people that were obviously passionate about wanting to attend KubeVirt Summit and having that be possible for more of the broader core community. So it's one of those funny things, because I guess I'm involved in the organizing of it. It is I have complex feelings about it, so it's really nice to hear that people enjoy it and actively want to be a part of it. We don't always get that feedback. One thing, I haven't written it down here, but we've been talking about it for quite a long time, our road to graduation. There is an open issue that's in our community repo. I'm happy to say that we are, I believe, like super close to that. We've now ticked all of the relevant boxes. We've gone through the security audit. We expect that to be published, if not next month, then the following month. And we're basically just putting the final, not nail in the coffin, but I guess the final coat of paint over it before we submit. And so they'll be in the queue for the CNCF. And so we are hoping that, you know, in the next however long it takes to go through the full CNCF process, we will be able to happily announce that KubeVirt will have become one of the, you know, Core Celebre graduated projects. So that's cool. And yeah, just Lattice 3 to chat, the VEP deadline approaching, and that the reviews are needed. Lee has added the AI contribution policy, so let's jump into that, and Lee can take the mic.
Yeah, I didn't really want to get too much into the meat and detail of the proposal. Really, kind of follows on from what I said last week. Just I proposed a relatively positive kind of AI contribution policy for KubeVirt as a whole. There's lots of back and forth on that. I think Itamar is against what I've proposed thus far, in terms of at the moment it's requiring submissions to be clearly attributed to particular tooling. And my reasoning for that is just to allow us to kind of gain qualitative and quantitative kind of data on how these tools are being used, and making sure that as a project we are doing everything we can to kind of enable the tools through in-tree kind of configuration or whatever else we need to do to help folks you know, be productive with the tooling. But yeah, I'm happy to hear, like, if other folks also think as Itamar does, that this is not the way that we should be going, and if there's kind of alternative suggestions that folks have, I'm also really happy to hear those. So yeah, it's going to take a while to converge, I think. I'm not looking to kind of converge this in the short term. It's going to be something that's probably going to kind of chunder on for the next couple of weeks, if not months, before we can kind of, you know, all come to some loose form of agreement. But yeah, if folks are interested, the PR's up. There's a whole load of comments and back and forth and stuff, and feel free to get involved and state your case either way. Thanks.
And thank you, Lee, for for reminding us of this and for pushing it on. I think it is important, and it's one of those things that is, I think I said this last week, kind of like easy to ignore, but it is something we need to tackle probably sooner rather than later. That's my personal opinion. Does anyone have anything they want to add to that before we move on? Lee's adding something, but I'll just jump ahead to the mailing list. We can come back to what he's writing to give him a chance to finish. So this only came through today, so I don't expect people to jumped onto it. But it did seem interesting enough to bring up in this meeting. It's about deprecation of something that seems as though never should have been supported in the first place. Does anyone have a memory long enough to to know why this might be the case?
Maybe Lubo. I don't know. I think we had somehow initial stab into this, but yeah, I mean, it's not active. Nobody needs this, and
It's been there for ages, to be honest. So
yeah.
I think people just, when we were doing the multi-art, it was just added because for completeness. I think for 2 years nobody was kind of working on this or pushing this into support, or I don't know we publicly actually acknowledge that we support this as well. The CI is not there for years as well, and this definitely doesn't work with our rootless work that we did also quite a long time ago now.
It seems like a good idea to remove all of this code.
Alrighty, thanks for that. Lee, are you ready to talk about ARM64 support?
Yeah, sorry about that.
Yeah.
I was going to raise this in the SIG compute call, but it's kind of a cross SIG thing, so this is probably the better call to raise it. But I've been working to re-enable the ARM64 lanes in main, and that work is now done. I was slightly confused about the actual state of support for ARM overall, though, within the upstream project. And Andrew, we spoke before, and there's this KubeVirt 1.1 blog post where we announced ARM64 as a first-class citizen. However, on the flip side, the user documentation still highlights quite a lot of gaps and missing bits of functionality. The actual test lanes that I've kind of got working again and re-enabled only provide partial coverage as well. So my question to this call and the community is, do we, now that we have the enhancement process, do we have to follow, would it be useful if we followed something like the vet process to potentially just go through all the open gaps, see if there's anything we can do to kind of close them, look at the current coverage, see if there's anything that we can do to extend it, and then formally as part of that process, say that ARM support isn't just a first-class citizen, but also GA. What do folks think to that approach?
So for me, I think it's such a big effort that tracking it has a meaning. I'm not sure if web is very suited for this, but maybe it is, maybe not. But definitely I want to track it. And I know that as of now, if we have a look at the test grid, I think it's about 100 tests that is running out of 1400s. So it's not even 10% of the coverage that we are running right now. And before actually announcing that we support something like this, I would like to definitely have a bigger coverage, more than the 8% or something like that.
I think back at the time we were hoping that there will be people who would be actively working on this, and we had, but with time, I think some people stepped away, and I'm also a little bit worried about the web process itself as a whole to be adjusted to this, but we can easily open a tracker and list the issues that we want to work on, like what are the missing pieces and how do we move on. So we can like a project level tracker and then open issues to track those. And then at some point declare that we are GA. I don't know.
Yeah, I'm happy to go with that route. I guess I'm also confused just if we class it being announced as a first class citizen as GA, even with the initial announcement from 1.1, like, do folks think that that initial announcement was just that there is some support for ARM64 and there's further work needed for GA?
I think back at the time we were very happy that we are able to build all of our binaries.
Right, that was the part. Yeah.
So I think this was the excitement, but other than that, yeah, there are lots of gaps, and it's really difficult to to find people who are happy to work on this.
Yeah. Aurel, you've got your hand up.
Yes, thank you. So from SIG's point of view, it's kind of interesting. Do we want to, for example, enable CI lanes also for ARM, like to have a Kubernetes 134 for network, for storage, for compute with ARM, and maybe even for some more advanced capabilities in the future, like with SRIOV or with the GPUs, for example. Like it would require us to have dedicated hardware.
Yeah, we do have dedicated ARM hardware now, at least generalized, generic, hardware. But yeah, for the more exotic lanes, that could become a problem. But even if we wanted to have comparable coverage to what we have with just AMD 64 at the moment, the cluster that we've been given probably isn't big enough to kind of deal with that potential load if we end up duplicating all of the AMD 64 generic lanes to ARM 64. So that's an open question in my mind as well, is how much coverage do we actually need to declare support for ARM fully GA, or more than it is now. I will note that some downstream vendors have already declared support, and not the vendor that I work for, but another vendor, for KubeVirt on ARM within their own product. They're pretty absent from upstream though, so good for them. I hope they've got good coverage downstream because it's not upstream, obviously. So yeah, it's an awkward one. If folks don't think an enhancement is useful here, I can just create a generic tracker and just do a brain dump into it of where everything is at the moment, and we can kind of iterate on that for a little while. I did want to kind of restart the working group as well that had been formed for this, because the whole idea of a working group is that it brings multiple SIGs together. Because yeah, this is cross SIG. Like there's storage, there's networking, there's compute, there's everything here. So yeah, maybe as a next step, I'll just get a generic kind of top level issue created, and then see if I can restart the working group.
Either way, maybe Dick. Please, Vladdy, go ahead.
No, I'm just happy that this is taking place. I mean, I think it's a very good idea to organize, at least to flesh out all the gaps, because at the moment it's kind of vague.
So maybe instead of declaring the whole support as GA, maybe we could declare specific features as GA, once they are mature enough and tested in some capacity.
Possibly. Do you mean adding a kind of architecture, like an architecture spin to the feature gates? So,
for example, we can have a table that says on AMD 64, CPU hot plug is supported and is GA. On ARM, it isn't. On some other architecture, it is supported, like etc.
yeah. Eventually, yeah, that would be good to get out of this. There is one of the links I've got there is FeatureGate status on ARM64. That is out of date, but that kind of tries to just capture that just state for the FeatureGates from 1.1, I think, and their support on ARM. But eventually, potentially, it would be good to encode that actually into our FeatureGates as well, just so it was a bit more obvious to users. Cool. Okay. Thank you all for the feedback.
Thanks, Lee. That brings us to the bottom of our agenda. Sorry, distracted by typing. Does anyone have anything last minute they'd like to call out before we wrap up for this week? Slightly ahead of schedule. Alrighty. And just in case you are wondering, that is a Christmas bauble being thrown away around on the hardwood floor. All right. Thank you, everyone, for this week's KubeVirt community meeting. Thank you for everything you're doing. Hopefully next week I'll have be a bit more under control and on top of things. Hope you all have a wonderful rest of the day, and we'll see you next week. Cheers. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.